Rome, possibly one of the mightiest cities and empires of the ancient era. Most of the Roman people worshipped gods that were derived from Greek mythology. The very roots of Rome include mythology. Romulus and Remus were two brothers and the beginners of Rome. The two were the sons of Mars and Rhea Silva. Rhea was the daughter of Numitor, the king of Alba Longa. Her uncle, Amulius, overthrew her father and forced her to join the Vestal Virgins. The Vestal Virgins abstained from sex to please the goddess of the hearth and to become her priestesses. One day, while in a sacred forest, the god Mars spied on Rhea and raped her. She became pregnant and bore two sons. King Amulius ordered her sons thrown into the Tiber River. The two were adopted by a female wolf who was aided by a woodpecker, both sacred animals of Mars. Later, Romulus and Remus were taken in by a herdsman whose wife had just recently lost a son. The twins set off on their own and decided to found a city. From this point, the story varies depending on where you read it. In some versions, Romulus and Remus get into a fight and Romulus kills Remus in order to get his name and location for the city. In other stories, the two sat on top of two hills they wanted to build the city on. They said that whoever saw the most birds got the city named after themselves. During that contest, Remus saw 6 birds while Romulus saw 12, therefore naming the city after himself. The Romans had a number of gods they worshipped. Temples were built to worship the gods, but they were worshipped outside, as the gods were believed to have lived there. The Roman gods also had human emotion. They had a god for practically everything that there was. The gods were their way of explaining natural phenomena. Though the Romans had many gods, there are a few that were worshipped more than others. Jupiter was the king of the gods, the god of the sky, thunderstorms, lightning, weather, air, law and order, justice, strength, and governance. Jupiter was Juno's husband. Neptune was the god of the seas, patron of sailors, and the protector of ships. Juno was the queen of the goddess of wisdom, marriage, and protector and counselor of Rome. She was also the wife of Jupiter. Mars was the god of war, spring, justice, and also the father of Romulus and Remus. Venus was the god of love, the consort of Mars, and the mother of Aeneas, an ancestor of Rome. Minerva was the goddess of wisdom, divine counsel, useful arts, arts and crafts, and later became the goddess of war. Janus was the god of beginnings, endings, transitions, doorways, and keys. Vesta was the goddess of home, hearth, and the matron of Rome. Diana was the goddess of hunting, the moon, childbirth, and virginity. Vulcan was the god of fire, volcanoes, manufacturers of art, arms, and he made iron armor for gods and heroes. Mercury was the god of shopkeepers, merchants, travelers, transporters of goods, thieves, tricksters, and the messenger god. Ceres was the goddess of agriculture, grain crops, fertility, and motherly relationships. The Romans also had sacred triads of gods. The archaic triad was composed of Jupiter, Neptune, and Quirinus. These gods all had places where they were worshipped in Rome. The second one was the Capitoline triad. These gods were all worshipped at the top of Rome's Capitoline Hill. This triad was composed of Jupiter, Juno, and Minerva. Lectisternium was a banquet for the gods where sacrifices would take place. Gods were split into heterosexual pairs. Jupiter was with Juno, Neptune was with Minerva, Mars with Venus, Apollo with Diana, Vulcan with Vesta, and Mercury with Ceres. For years, Christians were persecuted in Rome for their beliefs. An apostle named Paul went around Asia Minor preaching and founding churches. He founded churches in Philippi, Corinth, and many other places. Paul would write letters to these churches to make sure all was well and tell them how to work out their struggles. Paul eventually made his way to Rome. He wrote letters to the Romans. The earliest Roman Christians were either poor or slaves. If they were caught, they would face death because they were not worshiping the emperor. In AD 41, the Great Fire of Rome burnt over 70% of the city. Emperor Nero, who is believed to have started the fire, blamed the disaster on Christians. Arrests and executions followed shortly after the claims were made. Some were covered with wild animal skins, chained up, and left to be eaten by dogs. Others were crucified. Many were burned at the stake to serve as torches at night. These actions led to the people of Rome to despise the Christians. Because of these threats, Christians were forced to meet in secret. Underground tombs took the place of churches. In AD 313, Emperor Constantine, a converted Christian, made Christianity legal in the Roman Empire. Christians were allowed to worship publicly without fear of arrest. Churches were constructed throughout the empire. In AD 391, Christianity became the main religion and the worship of other gods was declared illegal. In approximately 45 AD, Simon Peter went to Rome to start the Catholic Church. He became the first pope. During this time, people worshipped certain gods vigorously, but believed in all gods. The Catholics took the gods that people worshipped and turned them into saints. The god Quirinus was turned into the Saint Quirinus. Quirinus was the deification of Romulus, the founder of Rome. Over the years, Roman religion changed quite a lot.